Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Dreamer's Edge podcast with our special Couch Potato Week.
I'm Chasm. I'm an English editor with Deluxe Digital.
I'm Bill.
And I'm Dimitri, webmaster of thedreamersedge.com. Today we're looking at the Tuesday television grid and looking at which network, American network I should say, even though we're in Canada, we're not touching the Canadian network because it's just American shows being reshuffled.
It's true.
Yeah, especially now that Corner Gas is over. Yeah,
I know,
yeah,
exactly. What is it or what?
So, without further ado, let's do a little bit of show and tell. Get us started, Kevin.
So my show and tell today is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. This is a series that aired in the late 80s, early 90s, starring Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes, and having initially David Burke as Watson for the first season, and then thereafter with Edward Hardwicke as Watson. I have to say that by far Jeremy Brett is my favorite Sherlock Holmes. I think he really captures the sort of cold calculation that goes into his deductions. The fact that he's fairly divorced from any sort of, deep human interaction. He does interact with people, but only as a means of observing them and observing human behavior. And Watson acts to sort of help kind of warm him up to other people, kind of prepare you for
the human life.
Exactly. So I would definitely recommend this DVD collection to you.
Did they show the early years where he dons the Iron Man suit?
What?
No, it's because, what's his face?
Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law.
Yeah, he's gonna play Sherlock Holmes.
Oh!
Yeah, they're going to be doing this early. I'm sure they have the
Right.
boxing and stuff like that. But I'm like, when he was doing that, Watson wasn't around, so I didn't understand where Jude Law came from. But anyway.
Iron Man is one show, one concept that doesn't go retro very well.
Well, Neil Gaiman has tried in his series 1602, which is about the Marvel characters. What if they came right around the Renaissance?
How?
He was steam powered. I think he was.
Really?
He was Steve Howard? Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
So let's just get to the grid. ABC. Yeah, we're always going to start by ABC because it knows its alphabet. At 8 o'clock, all the way to 9, Shark Tank. Kezim and I have already read up about the new shows this season, but Peo hasn't. And every time there's a new show, we're going to ask Peo to guess what the show is just by the title.
I was gonna go with in the line of Wipeout, where they have a show, except that this time it's with actual sharks to make it interesting. So people go through a gauntlet, and then if they fall, they get eaten.
I would watch that. But no, it's the American take on the British show The Dragon's Den. Canadian viewers will also be familiar with Dragon's Den because we had our version for quite a few years now.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
I think it's very timely given the recession and everything.
That's true.
Well, look, it's one of those programs where you really get to see how to put together a really good package in order to market your product, right?
Yeah.
And of course, if you're successful in front of, well, in the British and Canadian show, it's the dragons. I guess if you're successful
sharks.
before the sharks, they'll actually support you.
What's nice is to see the difference between the ones that understand what's going to make good business and the ones that don't.
Exactly.
And the dragons have real incentive to not just play it up for the camera because they're actually putting their money into these ventures.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
It's also interesting because sometimes they also take a sort of like a moral standpoint for themselves. Like I remember they had one program where it was similar to pornography is really what they were trying to sell, like a website. And one of the dragons was like, yeah, right off the bat, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already a no for me. So it's interesting just to see the different takes on how people also approach business.
Also, it's nice to see how the dragons, even if they think the idea is good,
Mm-hmm.
if they're not familiar with the market and they don't see how they're going to approach it,
Yeah.
then they just step back, which
Exactly.
is very
And
smart.
they explain why they do it. It's like, these are my concerns.
And they do more than that. They actually teach those contestants, which is kind of nice. A lot of things that they do is teach them how to do is pitch, because when the project is good and the pitch is bad, they will tell the contestant what was wrong with the pitch in the first place. And it's actually sound advice. It's not kind of like The Apprentice, where I find the advice really doubtful.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a writer, about 90% of my job is pitching. And so a lot of stuff that I learned through trial and error over the years, like they will just say it outright to these contestants who are doing their first business pitch, which is not the same as a creative pitch, but quite similar in a lot of ways. And I'll just say like all these lessons that it took me years to learn right off the bat in really clear ways.
But it'll be nice to see if the Americans actually
follow
maintain this. Because if they have someone like Donald Trump, for example,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's the same group that's producing this, there's a good chance they're going to choose the right people. But you can choose someone who's flashy and it's just going to...
Yeah.
It's true. It's all about the sharks. If the sharks are good, then it's going to be good. If the sharks are Donald Trump, then it's going to be awful.
One thing this brings up, though, if you're successful, does that mean the sharks ate you or not?
No. The sharks. If you survived the Shark Tanks, you didn't get eaten.
Yeah, but that means they weren't interested in you.
They recognize you as a fellow shark.
Ah, maybe.
9 o'clock. I'm still on ABC. Dancing with the Stars, the results show.
Skip it.
Yeah, we're going to come back to that because I think it's going to connect with some of the stuff we'll have to say about Fox just in a few seconds. And then at 10, a new show. The Forgotten.
I'm guessing cop show, cold case meets for abductees.
Sweet
Oh my
potatoes, you are
goodness.
so good at this. It's a Bruckheimer crime drama. And it's cases that are about to be closed that get handed to amateur crime solvers. It's another Bruckheimer crime drama. He does them well.
Yeah.
You know?
So I imagine it'll be fairly good.
But he does them a lot.
And
That
that's
is
the
also
thing.
true.
He might saturate the market at this point.
Yeah.
Speaking of saturating the market, CBS from 8 to 10 is NCIS followed by NCIS Los Angeles because the similarities to CSI weren't enough. This is what I love about the Los Angeles one because NCIS is military stuff. It's the Navy
exactly.
investigation. Are there that many Navy military bases in Los Angeles to justify it being specifically LA?
Well, you know what I find so
wouldn't know.
bizarre, though, is that I actually saw the episode where they start introducing the characters that are going to show up in the Los Angeles one with Chris O'Donnell and LL Cool J.
Night of the 90s has been.
Isn't it, though? But what is so funny is that I actually got very little sense of the Navy connection. They seem like an offshoot of the FBI or something because they do a lot of undercover work. Chris O'Donnell is supposed to be like a master of disguises and infiltrating, criminal organizations. And LL Cool J is basically his eyes on the ground using all this really awesome tech, And I'm like, why isn't he in the field? He's like, the guy's built.
They just wanted the franchise name,
Yeah.
essentially.
So it would seem.
Moving on. And then at 10, still on CBS, The Good Wife. What do you think that is, Boo?
Oh, that's a toughie. It must be a drama. Desperate Housewives-ish?
Okay, so a Desperate Housewife type drama.
Maybe?
It's not
Totally
too
off.
far off, no.
It's a divorcee of a corrupt politician who's been disgraced, I guess is a better word.
She had training as an attorney, and so she goes back into the law practice. And it's basically her trying to prove herself, make her way, and I guess kind of find her own sort of self-identity. Because for the longest time, she was just the wife, and now she's a person sort of in her own right.
Yeah, I think actually it's a fairly condescending take on the politician's wife. These are accomplished women who...
Especially with Michelle Obama.
You can't be a kept woman and be a politician's wife. You carry half the burden. You really do.
Yeah.
Because your public image is as important as the politician's public image.
Exactly. Because basically they're starting with the idea that she was essentially nothing until the divorce.
Yeah.
Right? And then she goes back to a career she had beforehand. But I'm like, I've never heard of anyone who is married to a politician giving up their career. They're always still very much involved.
But it is their career.
Exactly, that's it. This is their life.
Yeah.
On the side. So the idea that, she hasn't been practicing law for how many years? I couldn't fathom that. That didn't make any sense.
Yeah, you've mentioned Obama. There's just Clinton.
No, it's a bad time to come out with that premise.
Yeah, it's also an incredibly condescending and
It
mildly
is.
sexist take on it.
Yeah.
It is.
So
So
it does go with the image of presidents' wives from years past.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously this is not a period piece. It's supposed to be modern.
what's interesting to me, did I interrupt you again?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. What's interesting about it, though, is that this is the first of many shows this season that's geared towards the baby boomers. That's a new thing. Baby boomers were kind of neglected in terms of the television audience over the last few years, which is kind of ridiculous because in terms of advertising power, they're the ones who have money and are going to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as more of them retire while they have nothing to do than just spend money. NBC, The Biggest Loser from 8 to 10, and then followed by The Jelly No Show, which we won't say any more about.
Mm.
The Biggest Loser.
What's there to say?
It has its appeal in the sense that it does provide inspiration for a lot of people who are trying to lose weight, especially with the obesity problem that we have in North America, which is growing.
No pun intended.
I guess the fact that it's continued on might be one, that it is inexpensive, but also I imagine it does draw on those sort of emotions of people, and that can hook people.
Even the losers got a good experience
Well,
out
exactly.
of it. It's not an annoying show.
Yeah, I mean, I find the contestants all seem very amiable. They are willing to work really hard. It does sometimes feel like I understand the idea of tough love, but it does sometimes feel like the trainers can be overly harsh.
Oh, I don't feel that way, though. I think if you have enough character to go on a show called The Biggest Loser and say, I'm fat and I need to change, then you probably have the strengths of character to withstand that kind of verbal abuse and not consider it verbal abuse and see the benefit from it.
They undoubtedly select for that as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's always a pleasure to watch the show, and I do, which I don't regularly because I'm not a big fan of reality TV as a general rule. It's always a pleasure because these are people you really want to root for.
Yeah. They all seem genuinely nice.
Fox. Okay, so theoretically, there's Hell's Kitchen from 8 to 9, but we all know that what's really going to happen is that there's going to be the 2-hour dance competition of So You Think You Can Dance, and on occasion when it's only 1 hour long, then you'll get the Hell's Kitchen episode. So You Think You Can Dance, following up from 9 to 10, or from 8 to 10 to begin with, depending on how you look at it. Anybody wants to say anything before I go in a rant?
I love that show. The dancers are just so awesome.
It's a great show.
And,
what do you say?
Nigel Lithgow is the best judge in any reality show that I've seen, and I haven't seen that many because I try to avoid them. But this is one show that I don't avoid because the judges in general are they give constructive criticism, even to the worst losers. They're going to say, I mean, you should not do this professionally, you should not ever come back here. But they don't say it in a nasty way. They say it to help the person.
Yeah, or in other cases, encourage them, like, you're not ready yet. Take some more lessons over the next year. Come back next year.
Or dance for fun. You're just not at a professional level. But keep having fun. It's a great way.
Yeah.
Unlike, Zach from Canadian Idol who threw a garbage can at one of the contestants.
What?
I would have leapt on him and punched the crap out of him. I don't care how badly I sing. You do not assault me.
No.
Yeah.
Interesting thing about So You Think You Can Dance. First of all, I love the fact that it's scheduled right at the result show from Dancing with the Stars. Which means nobody's going to watch the result show. Because even if you like Dancing with the Stars, what are you going to watch? People actually dancing or people getting results?
Yes.
Yeah.
And once you start hooking off the show slowly, well, I skipped the result show and I'm less invested now. Why don't I just skip the show entirely?
Exactly. Although, mind you, I think the producers of Dancing with the Stars did give that some thought because they're actually going to be changing up the format a little bit to have sort of a dance-off. On the other hand, you've got, on So You Think You Can Dance, people who have spent their lives dedicated to this art form. So I think I'd be more inclined to watch them.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, quality, there's no question. So You Think You Can Dance should take the dance show trophy.
Exactly.
And very good programming choice.
Fox was very aggressive in this one, and they were quite clever. I like to see Fox taking really interesting decisions, which they haven't last year. The thing that's interesting for Canadian viewers, though, is that the franchise is going to compete against itself. On CTV, So You Think You Can Dance Canada has the exact same time slot.
You're kidding me. That is completely ridiculous. Because unfortunately, Canadians will watch the American.
Well, it has better production value and better judges. I could deal without more Trey.
Oh.
Let me use language in a way that I don't know how, but elaborate on it while saying things like fantabulosity.
Yes.
Ugh.
Well, last season at the very beginning, I didn't even watch the whole thing, but they couldn't do camera work right. It was all over the place, and it just turned me off right from the start.
Yeah, and even a live show, all the color tones were kind of blue and sepia.
Yeah.
It's really cold. The dancers were amazing, and the choreographies were great. That made up for it, but it's just lesser production value.
Yeah, and it was nice. I mean, as a Canadian viewer, it was nice to see Canadians getting that sort of exposure, choreographers
Mhm.
and dancers alike. And you gotta feel for Jean-Marc General because this is his baby. You know, he's very proud of being Canadian, especially being, French Canadian, and it does seem rather unfortunate.
Oh, for American audiences, Jean-Marc Généreux is essentially the Nigel in the Canadian show. I mean, if you watch the American show, you're surely familiar with his work. He does a lot of the ballroom choreographies. He must be really miffed.
Mm.
He really
But I mean, Fox, it's a good strategic move to put So You Think You Can Dance in the fall.
Yeah.
So you can't fault them for that. I mean, putting it on the same night at the same time is.
Well,
Well-
that's not their fault.
No.
It's
Yeah.
not Fox's responsibility to handle
No.
what's going on in Canada.
That's true.
Yeah,
You know?
but
I
you
mean,
care less about what's going on. But,
It's,
yeah.
I guess it's a bad programming choice by, I guess it's CTV.
But CTV had scheduled it long before Fox had announced that they were taking over the fall.
Well, exactly.
Another thing about Fox being brilliant, what they're obviously doing is, So You Think You Can Dance in the fall, American Idol in the winter, and that's great because those two shows are juggernauts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of reality TV.
yeah.
Oh, I'm so tired of American Idol.
I don't like it, but
Yeah, I don't-
but in terms of rating, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's a family-oriented show. People from all ages can watch both of these shows, so it's...
Well, there's Hell's Kitchen too, actually, which I like Hell's Kitchen. I actually missed last season.
In terms of Ramsey shows, I prefer Kitchen Nightmares.
Yeah, where he actually goes in.
Yeah, Kitchen Nightmares, that's true. Kitchen Nightmares is a better show.
I feel it's more constructive.
All right, it's Retro Night at CW, aiming at the young audience who won't know what it's retro about. So, starting off with a good old-fashioned 90s show, 90210, The Next Generation. Well, it's not actually called that, but really.
It might as well have been. Yeah.
Followed by, oh wait, it's a new show. Try to guess what it is. Melrose Place.
I never actually knew what the original was about, so I don't know.
Well, it's about one of the cast members from the previous version becoming the landlord of Melrose Place, where she gets to hold like young people
Yeah, she gets...
fornicating for something like
Yeah,
that.
and she definitely makes sure she's involved, in every aspect of their lives.
90210 has been doing very well by CW standards.
I think that you qualified that.
So, doing a retro night, it's a great lead into Melrose Place, sure.
Yeah, it makes sense in terms of programming.
Not something I'm going to watch, but
Sure.
if someone watches 90210, chances are they're going to like Melrose Place as well.
Yeah.
Same people liked it way back when, so I'm guessing the same people are going to like it again.
Hmm.
Although, God knows why. I was never a fan of either show.
Yeah,
I've never even tuned in once. I've never seen a single episode, so I can't even say like, oh, it's bad or something. I just never tuned in.
Yeah.
I was too busy with my crush on Candace Cameron from Full House.
Which one was that?
The eldest.
There was only the twins and her? Is that?
No, there was three
There's
daughters.
three daughters. There's the
Yeah,
middle
she was the
daughter,
eldest.
the youngest, and she was
I
the
don't remember
eldest.
the
She had
eldest.
the annoying friend, Kimmy Gibbler.
Look, it's not like she was pretty or anything. It's a taste of a 12-year-old or whatever age I was. Alrighty, that concludes the night. So, Bill, who do you think is gonna take the night?
Fox. Hands down.
Yeah?
I'm gonna have to agree, Fox. They got So You Think You Can Dance. So even if you're not a fan of Hell's Kitchen, you're gonna tune in for that.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say Fox as well, but with one reservation. It is 2 seasons in a row of So You Think You Can Dance. People may be danced out by the time it starts in the fall.
Well,
That
people
is true.
used to watch Dancing with the Stars.
That's not dancing.
Mind you, I think they have tried to anticipate that by having the current of the past season little excerpts from sort of people you can expect. For instance,
Yeah,
Evan's
Evan's
eldest
brother.
brother, which is great because the guy gives an amazing audition. So it
I
gives you
just can't
some
wait for him
incentive.
to choreograph something.
I know, that's what I'm waiting for. So it does give you some incentive because it's like, hey, this is someone we've already seen. We like him. I think I'll tune in.
Mhm.
So even if they are feeling a little danced out, they might tune in from the beginning. And if they get hooked, which I'm imagining they will because it's an awesome show, you might be able to get away with it.
They need some really good personalities
Yeah.
to capture people
I
early
think
on.
that's probably why they've been doing that this season.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they've been doing it as intelligently as you can possibly do it. And it's also, Fox doesn't really have a choice because making the show disappear for more than a year will make you lose audience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They really don't have
Yeah,
a choice.
if they want to move it to the fall, I mean, actually, they're probably willing to take a ratings hit for the season
Yeah.
and just pick it up the season after.
True. Especially since Fox programming has shown a remarkable amount of patience regarding the ratings, looking at the long-term picture. So that might be how they're treating it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's going to happen? What are you going to watch?
NCIS Los Angeles.
Clearly.
You can watch that alone. And that concludes our show. Goodbye.